Okay, so on today's final episode of the Robert Hohenberger series, we're going to talk about the possibility that Robert Hohenberger is the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates. So, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because this is the reason this series kind of started was that Mark Cannella, who was a victim of Robert Hohenberger, his sister Cindy Cannella reached out to me specifically in regards to this. She said, "Hey, I typed in Cheri Jo Bates's best friend into Google, and you popped up, and that's why I'm contacting you." Well, I don't know what to say about that other than I sure would have liked to have been Cheri Jo Bates' best friend, I guess, but I wasn't alive in 1966, so I don't know how that's possible. But I have investigated her case for the History Channel as well as for my YouTube channel, and I guess maybe that's how Google made this connection. Regardless, it happens for a reason, and I believe things happen for a reason. Needless to say, in the past 7 years since I did the History Channel show, I've gotten a lot of emails from people who said this person is the Zodiac or this person killed Cheri Jo Bates. And for the most part, I let them, okay, well, tell me why. Because I believe everybody deserves to be heard. But once I read that theory, if I'm going to say 90% of them that I get are crackpot theories, meaning they're from conspiracists or they're from crazy people or they're from people that are just trying to make connections that there is no connections to be made. Hey, it makes sense to them, so whatever, I'm fine with it, but I don't follow up anymore. Okay, you made your point. I don't agree at all. I'm not going to belittle you, and it's just over and done with. Thanks, thank you for the information. Move on. However, I did the same thing with Cindy Cannella in regards to Cheri Jo Bates. Why? That was my response back to her. And she told me why. She wrote it out. And there was enough there that gave me pause. And I was like, okay. Well, let me look into it a little further. That is unlikely and unusual in itself. I usually don't get anything that makes me go, let me dig in. But she did. Hence this whole series and hence this final episode. I thought it was only fitting to end this series on the reason that Cindy Cannella got a hold of me and started this whole thing off to begin with. So, Cheri Jo Bates, for those that don't know, she was murdered October 30th, 1966 in Riverside College in Riverside, California. She had gone to the library, as you see by her note right here, that I was fortunate enough to read the original note when I sat down with her brother, and he had that saved. And when she went to the library, she did not return the next day. Her body's found in between two houses leading kind of off campus, I guess you would say. I mean, she was away from the library where she was. Her car was found there. The ignition wire had been pulled. Somebody had disabled her car. Her books were left in her car, and someone heard a scream around 10:30 at night. So that's basically the case. Now, when I did my assessment on the case, I felt, number one, I disagree with Riverside Police. Their suspect is a guy named BB, which is just initials for his real name. If you really want to know his real name, go search on the internet, and I'm sure you'll find it. But I'm not going to say it here because, number one, if he didn't do it, I don't like suspicion drawn upon anybody if they didn't do it and their name's just associated with the case, especially now with social media and the true crime community, how crazy they really get. I don't believe that it was him, and I base that off of my crime scene assessment and the police reports, which I was privy to. Also, I base it off physical evidence. And what physical evidence is that, you ask? In Cheri Jo Bates's palm between her thumb and finger, in blood, was a hair. That hair was sandy brown in origin from a white male. That was tested for DNA by the lead detective at the time, who I did not get along with. He made some disparaging comments to me, but I'm working on being a forgiving person. Therefore, I won't say his name. But I disagree that he believes that it's this gentleman, BB. The hair that was tested did not match BB. Now, his reasoning, probably Riverside's reasoning, is, well, that hair could have gotten there at any time. That statement there, to me, is a very tunnel-visioned department and or investigator who is not coming off of their suspect because the evidence doesn't fit. And hey, it doesn't matter. It's this guy. And you start making excuses for why the evidence doesn't fit. That is how innocent people get convicted, folks. Right there. Instead of saying, oh, okay, well, maybe I had it wrong. But knowing this detective and his ego, I'm not surprised at all. So with that being said, I do not believe it was BB. What I really believe happened, and I think it's based off of the crime scene itself, tells me that she was being abducted. She was not being led away from her car by her boyfriend or by an ex-boyfriend. She was not getting a ride home from one of them. I think the crime scene tells us that because her books were still in her vehicle. I believe whoever approached her was offering her help either by taking her to a phone or saying, hey, I'll give you a ride to wherever you want to go. I think, in my mind, there's no doubt that it was an attempted kidnapping. For whatever reason, it doesn't happen, and she is killed in the alleyway in the dark between the two houses. She is stabbed numerous times. She is not sexually assaulted, and she, at one point in time, I believe, is turned over onto her stomach. And the reason I believe that is the crime scene photo, you see her ankles crossed. And anytime that I see that, to me, that indicates somebody was rolled over. Not always, but most of the time. If you don't believe me, hey, get your wife or girlfriend, lay her down on her back, grab her by her arms and roll her over, and you will see when she lays on her stomach and is rolled over, her ankles will be crossed. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, we will discuss how Robert Hohenberger fits into this. Robert Hohenberger, if you remember, was a reserve Riverside Auxiliary Sheriff's officer. That's a mouthful. but he basically worked for the Riverside Sheriff's Department. He wasn't employed there, it was a volunteer position. That is how he raped his first victim that we know about on May 8th, 1966, the school teacher. So when Cindy Cannella got to me and said, hey, I think he's responsible for Cheri Jo Bates' murder, the first thing I looked at was his time frame. Could he have done it? When I saw the May 8th assault, the May 11th, 1966 arrest for sexual assault, I said, well, Cindy, it's a good possibility he was in jail for that on October 30th, 1966, when Cheri Jo Bates was murdered. I would check that out first, because if he's in jail, obviously he couldn't have done it. She did that. She got back to me and she said he was out on bail. So I went back to the newspapers. I read some things and yes, confirmed that he was out on bail during that time period, as far as I could tell, and everything I've researched and what Cindy researched. So there was the biggest hurdle. Okay, he could do it. What ties him, though, to Riverside College? Just to say a suspect lives in an area, that's why I had a biggest problem with the TV show, If I Did It or something like that, about serial killer Eddie Edwards, where this detective was connecting him to all these famous murders. Black Dahlia murder, yep. JonBenet Ramsey, Atlanta child murders, Lacey Peterson, Steve Avery. He killed all these people. It was the most asinine thing I've ever seen in my life. I understand entertainment, but come on, this is supposed to be true crime, not just crime. Worst show I've ever seen in my life because it spread so much misinformation. But there was truths to all of those. Oh, he was in Colorado when JonBenet Ramsey was murdered. So that's the connection. I don't like that. You know how many people or murderers are in Colorado at the same time JonBenet Ramsey was murdered? So that is a very loose and weak connection. So, Cindy, why is he at Riverside College? Can you put him on the campus? She says, yes, I can. And the reason that I can is because, number one, he worked for Riverside Police Department. And I said, well, time out. That doesn't work. She says, why doesn't it work? Well, because he was fired in May of 1966 after he was arrested for these charges. So by October of 66, he's no longer employed by there. So you can't use that. So we got that out of the way. She said, well, the sheriff's office did security at Riverside College. Okay, I understand that, but again, he wasn't employed anything with Riverside by October of 66. Well, what I wanted to know was, well, what did he do? That was an unpaid position in May of 1966 that he had with the Riverside Sheriff's Department. What did he do for money? Right? So I go back to the interview that I had with his co-worker in Louisiana when he was staying there under the name Frank Green. And they said he was a jack of all trades and he was very good at all aspects, handyman type of things. So go back to 1966, where he is living in Eagle Mountain, I believe is the area, which is very close to Riverside. He was working for a temp agency. And that temp agency, from the research that Cindy did, was Kaiser Steel. And they were contracted to do work at Riverside College. Now, I saw that, and that certainly bumped my interest level up a little bit more. But how can we confirm that? So I researched as much as I could, and as far as I could get was a newspaper article that I believe the sheriffs of Riverside gave an interview that said he was not working here as a paid. He only worked here for a year. He worked at Kaiser Steel. So when I saw that, and that is then linked to being contracted to Riverside College, okay, things are starting to add up. Then she sent me information about Robert Hohenberger's sister, Linda Hohenberger. She was a student in 1966 at Riverside. Now, again, right on the surface, I think that's weak. But as I've researched Hohenberger, I realized how close he was to Linda. Remember, she gave him clothing. She gave him a gun when he was on the run, when he fled California. So that, to me, is a pretty big indicator, is that Hohenberger was at least around that campus, or had the potential to be on that campus in 1966. He lives by it. His contracting services for handyman through Kaiser Steel was working. Now, I didn't see any work records of this, but this is the research that I was provided as well. It indicates that. And his sister is there. So I'm intrigued. I keep getting intrigued. I'm not having anything knock me off of my ladder, climbing up to the reasons Hohenberger is responsible for Cheri Jo Bates' murder. But then the biggest thing stood out to me. Is I remembered when I was filming for the History Channel that we made a big deal about the desk poem that Zodiac wrote in Riverside College. On the underside of a desk, there was this poem written, and the initials, the signature, you guessed it, it was R.H. Robert Hohenberger. So when I remembered that fact, and I remembered it, but I was like, whoa, this can't be. And I had to go back and look, and sure enough, the desk poem. Now, one of the caveats to this, one of the mysteries to me had always been, if it was written on the underside of that desk, why? How is that possible? I doubt that's by a student, but it could be by somebody that's working in construction or maintenance. And that's how I thought that happened. That's a big coincidence, but I do believe in coincidences. The people that tell you they don't, they have not worked enough cases. There are certainly coincidences, but when the totality of all those coincidences line up, then you better start looking hard at a suspect. So that desk poem intrigued me. Not the poem itself, but the initials RH. Then I flip back to when I talked to Robert Hohenberger's co-worker in Louisiana. He said a detail to me that was in his mind just passing, didn't think nothing of it. But to me, I was like, ooh, I like that. And that was something about his sunglasses. He stated he was driving with Hohenberger one time, and Hohenberger had a pair of sunglasses on. He happened to look over at him, and the sunglasses had initials on them. What do you think those initials were? Correct. RH. Now, again, on its own, that doesn't mean anything. But if you connect that to the desk poem, to him living in Riverside, him having a sister that was going to college and living on the campus in Riverside, his construction company working at Riverside, you're seeing what I'm seeing, right? But still, it takes a lot to convince me, and I'm not convinced yet. I like some things that I'm looking at. It appears that he likes initials. RH. Why would you have those on your sunglasses? But he signs the desk poem, RH, as well. So that was intriguing to me, I must say. But now let's go to the crux that I feel of why Robert Hohenberger is or is not the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates. He is a rapist. He is a kidnapper. His MO, I believe, fits Cheri Jo Bates. Not to a T, but it does. 10:30 at night, hey, College of the Desert girls were abducted at 10:45 from college, leaving a library. I mean, there's significances there that ties them on. The disabling of the vehicle is not something he's done before, but maybe that's because he doesn't have to. He's never had to do it before, right? I'd like to know about Mary Rotterman's vehicle and whether it was tampered with or not. I believe the police would have known that, or whoever it was when they went to start it, whether it started or not, because whoever did that here in Cheri Jo Bates' instance, it worked. So I would expect that killer to stay with that. Hey, it worked. I got her with me because of what I did. But what doesn't match Hohenberger's MO is that she was killed. Now you're saying, what do you mean? He killed 4 people. 3 for sure. 2 are missing. What do you mean? In 1966, he had not killed anybody before. If we look at his timeline of murders and assaults, May of 66, the school teacher, he didn't kill her. 1970, Laguna Beach, 2 of them, he didn't kill them. Kidnapped 2 people in Mount Tam, he didn't kill them. In October of 77, 2 girls from the College of the Desert, he didn't kill them. So you're going from 1966 to 1978. As far as we know, he didn't commit any murders. So Cheri Jo Bates being murdered doesn't make sense in the pattern of Hohenberger. Hey, but I realize that not all serial killers fall into a pattern. You can't always lump them in, and just because one thing misses, you can't say, well, it's not him. For example, what if Robert Hohenberger, who was working construction, had his eyes set on Cheri Jo Bates and her yellow greenish Beetle, and just like he did Bridget's sons, he focused on her, he killed her. There was allegation made by a witness who said there was a construction guy with a mustache who asked about Cheri Jo Bates. I don't know, to be honest with you, that is written somewhere. But over 50 years, things become myths, become legends. That may not even be true. Until I see it written down somewhere and it comes directly from a witness or a police officer, I'm not sure I believe it in older cases. But let's say that was Hohenberger and he locked in on her, and what is he going to do? He's going to abduct her. That's what he does. Now, in 1966, if this was him, it was the beginning of his crime spree. So he's not well versed yet in everything, but he has done it at least one time that we know for sure on May 8th, 1966. And that was easy because he had the power of the badge, the car. He was able to pull her over, and that was easy for him. He doesn't have that in October 30th, 1966. He may still have a badge, but again, I went through. They never found another badge on him ever again. As far as I know, it's not documented anywhere in any of the search warrants of all of his properties and his car and on his person. So, could he have disabled a car? Absolutely. He was a jack of all trades. There's no doubt. So, my assessment that Cheri Jo Bates was being kidnapped fits Robert Hohenberger. But once he gets in between those two houses, in that alleyway where she is killed, something happens. I do not believe that she was going to be sexually assaulted there, although that is possible. I still believe there's a car waiting that he is taking her to. Maybe she realized that she was in trouble. Maybe that's when he took out a knife. Hohenberger always had knives. He had a pocket knife on him when he was killed in his pocket. His rooms had numerous knives. He used a knife in the Laguna Beach sexual assaults. He used a knife on Mount Tam to abduct the couple. So having a knife on him that's not unusual at all. The stabbing of Cheri Jo Bates, maybe she fought back. When he pulled out that knife to, she realized, hey, this isn't right. He's not here to help me. We're going the wrong way. Whatever it is, he pulls out the knife and says, hey, you're going with me or I'm going to kill you. Same way that he did to the second girl at College of the Desert with a gun. And she began to fight back and run. And she ran. He didn't shoot. She got away, and that started the whole police pursuit and his fleeing to Louisiana. What if Cheri Jo Bates did the same thing? He has a knife. He has it to her back. She realizes something's up. I'm going to try to run. He grabs her. She fights back. She was feisty. She fought. He has no choice but to kill her. And he's angry. So he stabs her numerous times. And then he's remorseful for what he did because that was not his intent. His intent was to sexually assault her, and he was going to let her go like he did the others. But she fought him. In his mind, what was I going to do? I'm already out on bail for one of the murders or one of the sexual assaults. I can't be caught again. And so I stabbed her and killed her. My Timex watch gets ripped off. And as you see in this picture, he had a Timex watch on, and police confiscated a Timex watch when he was arrested. Again, to me, that's weak because everybody had Timex watches. It doesn't mean anything. But what does mean something is the DNA that we were able to recover from that watch, YSTR DNA, that could be compared to Hohenberger's DNA. The same with Cheri Jo's capri pants that we used the MVAC system on and got male DNA from those pants. Could be not even related to the offender. Those pants were probably touched by people with no gloves. I don't know. But we have it to compare. And Hohenberger's DNA is on record. So let's compare them. You know what I mean? It's a simple process. I've compared Cheri Jo Bates's DNA to the case breakers suspect. Who was that they thought was the Zodiac? And TMZ and jumped on it. Like, it just frustrates me. I forget who they said it was. But, hey, send me his DNA. I'll compare it. I compared it. Doesn't match. Somebody else said, hey, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, is the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates. As far-fetched as that is, it wasn't hard for me to just say, okay, well, to shut you up, give me the DNA that you got of him, and I will compare it. And, of course, it was no match either. Some of these people and their suspects, maybe I'm doing the same thing here with Hohenberger. But I think I'm giving you reasons, and Cindy Cannella has given me reasons. It's like she gave me pieces, and I went and looked into it further to convince myself, and that's where we're at. I think of when Hohenberger told the couple that he kidnapped on Mount Tam that he had killed 17 people previously. I guess it's possible it could be true, and Cheri Jo Bates was one of those people. I would say my final conclusion on this is that I would lean towards he did not commit this murder. But it's a lean. That's all it is. And the reason I go to that is because he had no murders from 1966 to 1978 that we know about. He sexually assaulted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals, and he didn't kill any of them. If he had killed Cheri Jo Bates, I believe that more than likely you would have other murders tied to him, and he wouldn't let those people go. But, and this is a big but to that, maybe it's because he didn't have to kill any of those other ones. They all complied. And maybe Cheri Jo Bates did not. And she fought back. And that's why he killed her. I could buy into that scenario. I certainly can. Certainly with him being on campus, having a sister that lives on campus, the RH desk poem, the sandy blonde hair, and Cheri Jo Bates's hand matches his hair color. A witness said they saw somebody in the alley. The description, was very hazy, but size-wise, weight-wise, certainly could match. I believe one of them said he was smoking a cigarette, which is not uncommon, but Robert Hohenberger certainly was a smoker. From his search warrant, I saw that he smoked Camel, was one of the brands that he smoked. So I'm going to leave it at this. Of all the suspects that I've seen as the potential murderer of Cheri Jo Bates, including Riverside suspect BB, I would say Robert Hohenberger is number one on my list. That's where I stand on it. Not saying he did it. I could see a scenario where he did. But again, for me, I like conclusive evidence. I need to see something, a smoking gun. For an example of a smoking gun would be Mary Rodderman goes missing. They do a search warrant on his house. They find her name, her parents' name circled in the phone book. Because whoever did it called her parents for a ransom. That's a smoking gun to me. I don't need much more than that. We don't have that here. But boy, we sure got a lot of circumstantial. But circumstantial is just that. We had a lot of circumstantial for, what was his name? Ross Sullivan, to be the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates. And a lot of things tied him to being a Zodiac, and I don't believe he was. Lawrence Kane, they thought he was a Zodiac. So here's a lot of, and he isn't. Gary Francis Post, that's the name I was thinking about earlier as the case breakers proclaimed that he was the Zodiac, which I don't believe he is at all either. And for this roster of case breakers of former FBI agents to go along with that, boy, it sure puts doubt in my mind about the intelligence level of the FBI anymore, if that's the case. And I was a part of the FBI. I got my plaque right there from the FBI, my Liberty Bell. So, I mean, it's not like I'm putting them down because I don't like them or have anything against them. It's just to get one or two people to agree that this guy is the Zodiac, I can see. But to get everybody, all these former FBI agents, I digress. Let's see if I covered everything that I wanted to cover on Cheri Jo Bates. I want to go over the notes specifically that Cindy Cannella sent to me. He worked for Kaiser Steel as a contract laborer. And remember, whoever did this, that Timex watch that was found is the offender's, and it had paint on it. And Riverside did a great job of trying to track down everything they could about that watch and the paint. But if you look at, I believe, the work application of Frank Green, a.k.a. Robert Hohenberger, he puts on there he's a painter. Again, I know these connections are somewhat weak, but they're connections nonetheless. Number 2, auxiliary sheriff officer, Eagle Mountain River side sheriff office was security for RCNC at the time. His sister attended RCC at the time in 1966. Again, in 1966, worked for Kaiser Steel, who provided essentials for the 1966 Riverside College rebuild. She says it puts him on campus. Good possibility, yes. Sister again, yep. It says, let's see what else. His work history in 1966, we covered that. The desk poem, which was probably the biggest piece of evidence for me. And it's funny is that Cindy Cannella never mentioned that desk poem to me. I know she probably knew about it, but I don't remember reading that from her. And to me, that was the biggest thing that, to me, Hohenberger could be responsible. Plus the MO. Let's not kid ourselves there. Timex watch again. That's going to be it, folks. That's the end of the series. Robert Hohenberger. I learned a lot from this series. Hohenberger taught me a lot, and I put it out there for you. Was Robert Hohenberger the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates? Remember, he never killed with a knife. It's important. And he had never killed from 66 to 78. Cheri Jo Bates, October 30th, 1966. Again, I lean not, but it's just a little lean. I can certainly see a scenario that he was the murderer of Cheri Jo Bates, and we need to test that DNA. In addition, I remember a thumbprint, if I'm right, in Greece on Cheri Jo Bates' car that has not been identified. We have Hohenberger's thumbprint, his fingerprints, his DNA. Let's test it all and be sure. Because he is a good suspect. My number one suspect of all the suspects that I've seen. And again, I've read the police reports. I've tested the evidence. And Hohenberger matches the assessment specifically of somebody was trying to abduct Cheri Jo Bates. I believe that wholeheartedly. And that matches Robert Hohenberger. So you make up your mind. It's not what I think. It's what you think. Look at the totality of everything. And you come up with your own conclusion. But I thank Cindy Cannella, who did a fantastic job of putting this together. Meaning, hey, I'm looking at Hohenberger because he killed my brother. What other crimes could he have done? This one? No, that doesn't make... No. Cheri Jo Bates. Oh! Well, this one kind of makes sense because of A, B, C. And she dug, just like a good investigator does. And I appreciate all the work that she did. My empathy and sympathy go to her and her family for her brother's death, as well as everybody else that was affected by Hohenberger, all the victims' families and friends who lived this nightmare in Louisiana. I would be remiss not to say the same thing about Cheri Jo Bates' family and her brother Michael, who I met and was a wonderful man and a wonderful brother to his sister Cheri. And it's a shame that we have evil people in this world that have no remorse, but we do. And it's my job to be able to sift through and say, yes, this fits, to make the puzzle pieces together so we can understand why these evil people do what they do. Why are they only evil to the victims, but they're so nice to everybody else? It's because it's a disease, and we have to understand that disease. Not all serial killers are jerks in life. What I mean is, they're not going to slam the door in your face. They're not going to cuss at you. They're not going to, be ignorant to you. No, they're nice to you. They work right next to you. Thank you. Please hold the door for you. Cordial. Good people. Until they close that door at night and they're sitting in their room by themselves with their fantasies. And that is the start of the evil person. We may all do this. We may all be nice people. We go home and we sit, and maybe we have fantasies too. But the difference is we don't act upon them. And our fantasies are not to sexually assault and kill and bind, which Robert Hohenberger's they were. When he was diagnosed by a psychiatrist in San Quentin, he said those very things. Robert Hohenberger is a sexual sadist. He's a narcissist. But yet, our justice system said, hey, he's fit for society. Let's let him go out and rape and pillage and kill. That's what they did. hopefully the justice system, learned from that. But they didn't. It's getting better, but they're still releasing sexual offenders. A sexual offender cannot be released from jail. They cannot be cured. That's my opinion on the subject. And that's my opinion on the whole series of Robert Hohenberger and whether he also killed Cheri Jo Bates. You make up your own mind. That's what I say. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to give you my thoughts, show you the facts. You decide. That's it. Thanks for watching the series. I appreciate everybody reaching out to me as they did. And I appreciate Cindy Cannella for all the hard work that she did. And I wish her the very best of luck moving forward in getting answers. And hopefully I helped getting some answers for you and your family in this terrible tragedy and crime spree of Robert Carl Hohenberger. And I cannot end this series by mentioning his name. And it's only appropriate that I end the series by mentioning a name of Mark Cannella and Bertha Gold, Judy Adams, Bridget Sons, Mary Lee Rotterman. That's how I'll end this series, with their names, because they deserve it, not the other person whose initials just happen to be RH. Thanks for watching. Mains out.